So in CIST 1602, Chapter 14, we're going to talk about IT security. In Chapter 14 for CIST 1602, we'll talk about IT security policy enforcement. So in this chapter, we're going to explore the important aspects of implementing and enforcing information system security policies within an organization. So our primary learning objectives is to gain a comprehensive understanding of the key issues that are associated with ISS policy implementation and enforcement. So throughout this chapter, we're going to go through various key concepts that are essential for effective policy enforcement. So we're going to discuss the organization monitoring and enforcement of ISS policies, emphasizing the role of organizations in ensuring the compliance with these policies. Also, we will explore the legal implications of ISS policy enforcement, really highlighting the importance of aligning policies with relevant laws and regulations. Also, we're going to examine the concept of accountability and ISS policy enforcement. We're going to explore who bears the ultimate responsibility for managing risk, addressing the threats, and mitigating vulnerabilities within the organization. Now, failure to follow policies can have serious consequences. This includes both regulatory noncompliance and potential lawsuits. So it's essential for organizations to recognize the significance of enforcing policies and taking necessary actions to ensure compliance. The enforcement of security policy should not be the responsibility of a single individual department. It should be ingrained throughout the organization with a collective effort from management, employees, and the various stakeholders. So this requires creating a culture of security and making policy enforcement a shared responsibility. Now, to effectively enforce the policies, organizations need to have a clear understanding of what they want to achieve through the policy enforcement. So this includes defining the desired outcomes, identifying the risk and vulnerabilities that need to be addressed, and also setting the goals for compliance and security. Conflicts may arise as well during policy enforcements, such as resistance from employees or conflicting priorities. So organizations need to recognize these conflicts and proactively work with employees to overcome them. Effective communication, training, and employee engagements, these all play vital roles in ensuring policy compliance and resolving any conflict. Now, executives have the authority and influence to overcome objectives and persuade organizations to adopt and adhere to security policies. Their support is vital in gaining buy-ins from all levels of the organization and ensuring that policies are taken seriously. When an executive actively endorses and demonstrates their commitment to secure policy enforcement, it sends a clear message to employees that security is a top priority. This clear message establishes a culture of accountability and zero tolerance for ignoring security policies. The executive management sponsorship, this helps to create a sense of urgency and importance around policy enforcement. It provides the necessary resources, budget, and support to implement and monitor security measures effectively. Moreover, executive support can help bridge any gaps between different departments and stakeholders that are within the organization. So it facilitates collaboration and coordinations among the various teams, ensuring a unified approach to policy enforcement. Now, by actively championing security policies, the executives set a positive example for the employees. It's encouraging their participation and compliance. This support not only reinforces the importance of security, but also helps, once again, to foster that culture of security throughout the entire organization. Government's processes refer to the high-level activities that oversee and guide the implementation and enforcement of IT security policies. So these processes focus on evaluating, directing, monitoring the organization's overall security posture. So when we're talking about evaluation, that's the government process involving assessing the effectiveness of the security policies, the controls, and the procedures. So this evaluation helps identify any gaps or weaknesses in the current security framework. The governance process also provides the strategic direction and guidance for policy implementation and enforcement. So they ensure that the security initiatives align with the organization's objectives and comply with legal and regulatory requirements. The governance process also includes ongoing monitoring and oversight of security activities. So this includes evaluating compliance, measuring performances, and identifying areas for improvement. And when we go to the management process, on the hand, this is responsible for executing and operating the operationalization of the IT security policies that are established by the governance process. So this process focuses on the day-to-day activities to ensure the effective policy enforcement. The management process involves continuous monitoring of security controls and the procedures to detect and respond to any security incidents or breaches is in the monitor process. The running process is management processes that encompasses the operational aspects of security. This includes the configuration and maintenance of the security systems, incident response, and security incident management. The building section of the management process that involves implementing and updating security controls and measures to address emerging threats and vulnerabilities. So this includes implementing new technologies, conducting risk assessments, and managing access controls. The planning management process covers the planning and coordination of security activities, such as developing security plans, defining security requirements, and allocating resources for policy enforcement. So, to sum all this up, governance process focuses on the strategic oversight and direction of IT security policy enforcement, while the management process that's responsible for the operational aspects and day-to-day execution of the policy enforcement activities. In the hierarchical organization approach to security policy implementation, gateway committees play a very important role in overseeing and facilitating various aspects of security policies enforcements. So we're going to look at some different types of gateway committees that are commonly found in organizations. The Project Gateway Committee is responsible for reviewing and approving security requirements and measures for new projects or initiatives. So it ensures that the security considerations are integrated into the project planning and execution. The Architectural Review Committee, this assesses the security implications of the proposed system architectures and designs. So it evaluates whether the proposed solutions align with the security policies and best practices. The External Connections Gateway Committee oversees the establishment and management of external connections, such as your network connection with business partners or third-party service providers. So it ensures that the proper security measures are in place to protect the organization's assets when connecting with external connections. The vendor governance community is responsible for evaluating, managing the security risk associated with third-party vendors. It establishes the policies and procedures for the vendor selection, contract negotiations, and ongoing security monitoring. The Security Compliance Gateway Committee focuses on ensuring compliance with security policies, regulations, and industry standards. So it reviews and approves security controls, conducts audits, and monitors the organization's adherence to security compliance requirements. Finally, the Operational Risk Gateway Committee, it assesses and manages security risks related to the day-to-day operations. So it's going to identify any potential vulnerabilities, implement risk management strategies, and monitors the effectiveness of the operational security controls. Now, these gateway committees, they're going to work in collaboration with other stakeholders, such as your IT teams, security professionals, and business leaders to enforce the security policies throughout the organization's hierarchy. Now, frontline managers and supervisors, they also play an important role in ensuring the successful implementation and enforcement of security policies within their teams. So some of the key responsibilities and areas of accountabilities for frontline managers and supervisors, uh, training and awareness. The frontline managers are responsible for ensuring that all team members receive the proper training on security policies and procedures. They must facilitate and coordinate the training sessions, provide resources, and address any questions or concerns related to policy compliance. Frontline managers also act as the go-to person for their team members when they have questions or need clarifications regarding security policies. So they should be knowledgeable about the policies themselves and provide guidance and support to ensure proper implementation. Now, managers and supervisors, they must apply security policies consistently across their teams. So this includes monitoring adherence to the policies, addressing any violations or noncompliance, and taking appropriate corrective actions as needed. Frontline managers are also responsible for gathering and monitoring metrics on the effectiveness of security policies within their teams. So this includes tracking incidents, measuring compliance rates, and identifying areas for improvements. So they should provide regular reports and feedbacks to higher level management on the policy's performance. The manager supervisors also play a very important role in ensuring that all team members follow the security policies. They should communicate the importance of policy compliance, provide ongoing reminders, and address any issues or changes or challenges that may arise. So they're responsible for maintaining a culture of accountability and discipline when it comes to the policy enforcement. Also, frontline managers, they're a key link between higher level management and the individual employees. Now, grassroots employees, they also play an important role in the successful implementation and enforcement of security policies within the organization. Now, there can be challenges when it comes to policy adherence. So, some of the reasons for failure to adhere to policies, and we're going to look at those and also explore potential approaches for addressing these challenges. Number one common reason for noncompliance is lack of understanding of the policy itself. So, grassroots employees may not fully comprehend the importance of the policy or how it relates to their work. So, it's essential to provide clear and concise communications regarding the policy, its purpose, and the potential risk and consequences of noncompliance. This can be done through training sessions, awareness campaigns, and also ongoing education that can help bridge the knowledge gap and enhance the understanding. Also, sometimes adhering to security policies may sometimes be perceived as an inconvenient or time consuming by the employees. So they may feel the need that by following the policy, it hinders their productivity and adds unnecessary steps to their workflow. So it's important to address these concerns by highlighting the long-term benefits of the policy compliance and also emphasizing the role it plays in protecting the organizations and its stakeholders. Additionally, providing user-friendly tools and streamlined processes, this can help minimize the perceived inconvenience and facilitate policy adherence. Another reason for noncompliance may be peer pressure. So, peer pressure can exert a significant influence on employee behavior, including with the compliance with security policies. So, grassroots enforcement can occur where employees hold each other accountable and encourage each other to adhere to the policy. Fostering a positive security culture where employees understand the importance of their individual role in maintaining a secure environment. This can also help create a supportive peer pressure dynamic. So, also encouraging open communications, promoting a shared sense of responsibility, and recognizing and rewarding employees for their commitment to policy compliance can further strengthen their grassroots enforcement approach. So, also, more on that subject, you can offer rewards and incentives. This can serve as an effective way to have the policy enforcement. So maybe it's recognizing and reward employees who constantly follow the security policy. And this can reinforce positive behavior and motivate others to follow suit. Now, this can be done through various means, such as performance evaluations, bonuses, public acknowledgments, or any other type of form of recognition. Now, an organization's right to monitor user action and traffic. This is something that's rooted in several important factors that contribute to maintaining a secure and productive work environment. So look at some of the key reasons why organizations might exercise this right. Maintaining a productive workforce. So by monitoring users' actions and traffic, it helps organizations ensure that employees are utilizing their time effectively and staying focused on their work responsibilities. It allows for the detection of any unauthorized and excessive use of company resources, such as excessive personal web browsing or non work related activities, anything that can impact their productivity. Also, monitoring enables organizations to detect instances where security policies are not being followed. It helps identify potential security breaches, unauthorized access attempts, or the transfer of sensitive data outside the organization's network. By monitoring the user's actions, organizations can proactively address policy violations and mitigate security risks before they escalate. Now, sensitive data is a valuable asset for an organization, and monitoring user access and their action and traffic helps maintain it securely. So, monitoring can also identify any unauthorized access or data leakage attempts. It enables the organization to take immediate action to protect their sensitive information. It also helps ensure compliance with data protection regulations and industry standards. Also, monitoring actions and traffic can help organizations maintain the quality of their services and product. So, by detecting any improper use or misuse of resources, organizations can ensure that their offerings meet high standards. Also, monitoring can help prevent activities that can harm the organization's reputation, such as the distribution of pirated software, music, or other copyrighted material. Finally, monitoring user actions and traffic it also assists organizations in meeting their legal obligations. So it allows them to track and address any activities that violate laws and regulations, such as harassment, discrimination, or the distribution of illegal content. One of the important aspects of information security is the compliance with laws and regulations. So organizations must view compliance as both a requirement and a risk management strategy. So we're going to explore the importance of compliance laws and how organizations can approach those. Now, the legal department plays a vital role in creation and enforcement of security policies. So they provide valuable insights into the legal requirements related to data protection, privacy, intellectual property, industry specific regulations, and any other relevant laws. So their expertise ensures that security policies are aligned with their legal obligations. Now, to effectively address legal requirements, organizations should establish risk management program. This program identifies potential risks, assesses their impact, and implements measures to mitigate those risks. So, by incorporating legal requirements into the risk management process, organizations can develop security policies that not only address compliance, but also minimize potential risks. Also, a robust risk management program. This ensures that security policies are effectively enforced throughout the organization. So, compliance with legal requirements is reinforced by constantly monitoring and evaluating policy adherence. So, this includes implementing measures such as regular audits, incident response procedures, and employee training programs. Now, by demonstrating evidence of policy enforcement, organizations can provide regulators with assurance they're actively managing risk and taking necessary steps to prevent security breaches. Now, the compliance laws, these serve as a framework for managing risk and preventing security breaches. So, by aligning security policies with the legal requirements, the organization can identify potential vulnerabilities and implement the appropriate controls. So, this proactive approach helps protect sensitive data, mitigate security risk, and also avoid potential legal consequences. Now, correct access control for facilitates facilities. This includes a multi-layered approach that incorporates legal thresholds, regulatory requirements, and security policies. So we'll look at the relationship between these three elements. So laws and regulations, these define the minimum requirements and the legal thresholds for access control. They establish the baseline, what is considered acceptable and necessary to protect physical assets, sensitive information, and individuals. So these legal thresholds vary depending on the jurisdiction and the nature of the organization's operations. Now, regulatory bodies such as government agencies or industry-specific authorities, they further specify the detailed requirements for access controls within their respective domains. So these regulations build upon the legal threshold and provide more specific guidelines on how organizations should protect their facilities. So compliance with these regulations is mandatory and ensures adherence to industry standards and the best practices. The security policies serve as the organization's internal guidelines and procedures for implementing access controls. They provide outlines the specific measures and practices required to meet the regulatory requirements and achieve the desired level of security. The security policy should be tailored to the organization's unique need, considering factors such as the sensitivity of assets, the level of risk, and the nature of the facility. Now, to enforce the protection of personal data, several security controls can be implemented. So we'll look at some of the examples here. One of these is data encryption. When you encrypt the data, you want to encrypting the data when it leaves the organization's network. This adds an additional layer of protection. So it ensures that even if the data is intercepted, it remains unreadable and unusable to unauthorized individuals. You also want to ensure that each user has a unique identity and proper authentication mechanism in place to help prevent unauthorized access to personal data. So implementing a strong authentication method such as multi-factor authentication, this adds an extra layer of security. Now, granting access to personal data on a need-to-know basis and for legitimate business purposes, this only helps minimize the risk of unauthorized access. By restricting access to only those who require it to perform their duties, the potential for data breaches is reduced. Also, establishing policies and procedures for retaining data only for as long as necessary and securely disposing of it when it's no longer needed is very important. So this ensures that the personal data is not retained beyond its required lifespan. It also reduces the risk of unauthorized access or accidental exposure. Also, having appropriate policies in place that outline the organization's commitment to data protection and security is very important. Regular security awareness training programs will help educate employees about their responsibilities and the best practices for handling personal data. And that helps reduce the likelihood of data breaches caused by human error or negligence. Now, it's important to note that these security controls work together as part of a comprehensive data protection strategy. So, implementing a layered approach that combines techniques, technical controls, user education, and policy enforcement enhances the overall protection of personal data. So now let's focus on the implementation of automated security controls through policy framework and explore various security controls that can be automated to enhance an organization's security measures. So authentication is the process of verifying the identity of the users. Policy-driven policy-driven automation can enforce the strong authentication methods, such as your passwords, biometrics, and multi-factor authentication. This measure helps ensure that only authorized individuals can access systems and resources. Authorization determines the level of the access privileges that are granted to authenticated users. Now, through policy implementation, organizations can automate authorization processes based on the user roles, responsibilities, and the principle of least privilege. So, this ensures that users have the appropriate access permissions aligned with their job requirements. Data encryption is important for protecting sensitive information from unauthorized access. Policy-driven automation can enforce the encryption of data at rest and in transit. So this ensures that even if the data is compromised, it remains unreadable and unusable to unauthorized individuals. Logging events involves capturing and storing information about system activities and security events. Automated logging mechanisms can be implemented through policies to record critical events, such as login attempts, system changes, and security incidents. These logs serve as a valuable source of information for forensics analysis, incident response, and compliance audits. Now, data segmentation involves dividing the networking data assets into isolated segments to contain the impact of a security breach. Policies can define rules for segregating sensitive data from non-sensitive data and restrict access between the segments. Automated enforcement of these policies helps prevent unauthorized access or lateral movements within the network. Now, similar to data segmentation, network segmentation involves dividing the network infrastructure into separate segments to enhance security. So policies can define rules for segmenting networks based on departments, functions, or security levels. Automated controls to ensure that the traffic flows are controlled, limiting the attack surface, and reducing the impact of potential breaches. Now, in addition to automated security controls, organizations can rely on manual processes to strengthen their security posture. So we're going to look at several key manual security controls that play an important role in enforcing security policies. So background checks are an important manual control used during the onboarding process to ensure that individuals with access to sensitive information or critical systems have undergone proper screening. These checks can include verifying employment history, conducting criminal record check, and also validating resources and references. So by performing background checks, organizations can reduce the risk of insider threats and unauthorized access. Log reviews involve the manual examination of system logs, audit trails, and event records to identify any suspicious activities. Manual analysis of logs can provide valuable insight into potential security incidents, policy violations, or unauthorized access attempts. Now, regular and thorough log reviews enable organizations to detect and respond to security issues promptly. Access right reviews involve the periodic assessment of user access privileges to ensure they align with the business needs and security policies. Manual reviews of user access rights help identify and address excessive or inappropriate access permissions. So by conducting access route reviews, organizations can minimize the risk of unauthorized access and prevent data breaches. The final one is also known as user certifications. This involves manual confirmations by users that they understood and agreed to comply with the security policies and procedures. So these certifications can be conducted periodically whenever there's a policy update. Manual attestations provide an opportunity for users to acknowledge their responsibilities and commitments to the security practices. As organizations strive to protect their information systems, it's important to understand the legal considerations associated with security policies. So we're going to explore the legal implications that organizations may face and the importance of proper enforcement. So one significant legal implication of IT security policy enforcement is the failure to properly retain records. Many regulations and laws require organizations to retain certain types of data for specific periods. Failure to comply with these retention requirements can result in severe consequences, including substantial fines and penalties. So it's essential for organizations to establish and follow well-defined record retention policies to ensure the compliance with the requirements, and also mitigate legal risk. Now, when it comes to data destruction, organizations must adhere to established policies and legal requirements. Older data should be destroyed in accordance with well established policies and procedures to minimize the risk of unauthorized access to data breaches. Failing to properly destroy data can have legal implications, particularly if sensitive information falls in the wrong hands. Organizations should have clear guidelines and the processes in place to ensure the secure and lawful disposal of data. Now, there are various forms of legal implications. Um, some of these may include noncompliance with regulatory requirements. So, the security policies often need to align with a specific regulation or industry standard. Failure to comply with these requirements that sometimes can result in legal consequences or maybe regulatory sanctions. Organizations may have contractual obligation with customers, partners, or third-party vendors regarding the data security. Noncompliance with these contractual obligations, this can lead to illegal disputes and potential financial liabilities. Yeah, security policies also play a very important role in protecting the privacy of individuals uh, and their personal information. So, failure to enforce these policies that can result in policy violations. It could trigger legal actions and also reputational damage. Also, inadequate security measures can also increase the risk of intellectual property theft or unauthorized use. So, this can lead to legal disputes and a loss of competitive advantage. So, the big question is, who is ultimately accountable for risk, threats, and vulnerability? The short answer is executive management is ultimately accountable for controlling risks. They are ultimately accountable for ensuring the effective risk management strategies and security measures are in place within the organization. The executives are also responsible for making strategic decisions, allocating resources, and also for setting the tone for security culture throughout the organization. Now, accountability can come from external forces, which can hold the executives and organizations responsible for their actions or maybe their lack of. So, we're going to look at some of these external forces. The perception of the public can have a significant impact on the organization. So, if public opinion turns against a company due to mishandling of risks, threats, or vulnerabilities, it can lead to a loss of trust and damage to the organization's reputation. The executives are accountable for maintaining the public trust and ensuring the organization's actions align with public expectations. Shareholders also have the power to influence decision making and hold executives accountable. So they can exercise their voting rights and actively engage within the organization at the shareholder level, particularly concerning risks that may impact the organization's financial performance or reputation. Regulatory bodies, they establish and enforce laws and regulations to protect the interests of the public and various stakeholders. So organizations must follow these regulations. Executives are accountable for ensuring the compliances. Failure to meet regulatory requirements can lead to penalties, fines, and other legal consequences. Now, in some cases, executives can be held personally accountable for their action or negligence related to risks, threats, and vulnerabilities. So, courts can hold the individual accountable for violating the law, particularly if their actions result in harm or damage to others. Now, while the executive management holds ultimate accountability, the employees also play a vital role in managing risks, threats, and vulnerabilities. So, the employees are accountable for following the security policies, adhering to the best practices, and participate in security awareness and training programs. So, they contribute to the overall security posture of the organization by being vigilant reporting potential risks, and adopting secure behaviors. Now, the IT security policy enforcement, this should come from multiple sources within the organization to ensure that it's effective. So we're looking at different areas of IT security policy enforcement and where it should originate. So the general counsel or the legal department, this plays an important role in the IT security policy enforcement. So they enforce legally binding agreements, ensure compliance with the applicable laws and regulations, and provide guidance on legal implications related to security policies. So they work closely with other departments to address legal concerns and mitigate potential risks. The executive managers, this also includes C-level executives and senior leaders. They have a key responsibility in implementing enterprise risk management strategies. As we've said, they set the overall direction and priorities for the organization's security policies, allocate the resources, and provide necessary support and commitment to enforce the policies effectively. Executive management plays a crucial role in fostering a culture of security and accountability throughout the organization. The human resource departments are responsible for enforcing disciplinary action related to security policy violations. So they work closely with the management to ensure consistent applications of policies and procedures, address employee misconduct, and also administer appropriate consequences for noncompliance. HR also plays a vital role in training and educating employees on security policies and their importance. The Information System Security Organization, this is often represented by IT security team or department, is responsible for enforcing security policies at the program level. So they develop and implement technical controls, monitor systems for compliance, conduct security audits and assessments, and also respond to incidents. They collaborate with other departments to ensure that the security requirements are met and take necessary actions to address policy violations. And finally, the frontline managers and supervisors have a direct role in enforcing security policies at the employee level. So they're responsible for ensuring their teams understand and follow the security policies, provide guidance and support, and also address any policy violations or security concerns. They serve as the primary point of contact for employees regarding policy-related questions and issues. So as we finish up chapter 14, we'll talk about our summary. What we've talked about in this chapter, the organizational monitoring and enforcement of ISS policies. We've also talked about how policy enforcement and how it relates to compliance laws, the legal implications of ISS policy enforcement. Finally, we've discussed who is ultimately accountable for the risks, threats, and vulnerabilities